Where do I even begin? If I'm being honest, it feels like my entire reality has just shattered in slow motion. And I was the last one to see it coming. I'm Kristen. I'm 36, and lately, every morning I wake up, I wonder if I'm still trapped inside some cruel dream where everything I thought I understood about my life was a lie. It's like I blinked and the world I worked so hard to build started crumbling, brick by brick, right under my feet. I've been married to Jake for almost a decade and a half. 14 years of believing we could weather any storm. We have 2 beautiful kids. Ethan, who's 9, and Maddie, who's 7. I used to tell myself that, sure, we fought sometimes, but that's just marriage, right? That's normal. We were never perfect, but we were real, and I always thought real was enough. But then, as if fate wanted to show me how naive I was, everything changed in the blink of an eye. It was an ordinary Thursday. Jake kissed me goodbye, same as every other workday, and headed off to the mechanic shop where he's poured years of sweat and sacrifice. He's the kind of man who never complains, no matter how exhausted he is. I always admired that about him. How steady he was, how he held us all together. I didn't know just how much was balancing on his shoulders until the phone rang. I was in the kitchen, trying to wrangle the kids and get dinner started, when my world turned upside down with a single call. It was the hospital. The words still echo in my mind. There's been an accident. They tried to reassure me, said it wasn't too serious, but the second I saw Jake lying in that hospital bed, all the colour drained from my life. He looked so fragile, so defeated. I could barely recognize him. The doctors told us he fractured vertebrae in his back, that walking would be agony, maybe forever. In that moment, shock swallowed me whole. How could this happen? Jake was the careful one. The one who kept us safe. Now he was broken, his spirit battered almost as much as his body, and I didn't know how to reach him. I told myself I'd be strong, that I'd support him no matter what. But it wasn't long before the weight started to crush me. Suddenly, Jake couldn't work. The bills stacked higher every week, and my tiny freelance gigs barely made a dent. We tried to scrape by on his savings, but I watched helplessly as our safety net unraveled. I'd always been the stay-at-home wife. My job was to make sure the kids were loved, the house was warm, and our lives felt normal. But now none of that mattered. I was failing, and I knew it. Money was always a blind spot for me. I didn't think twice about spending on little things. A new dress here, a toy for the kids there. It never seemed like much, but now those small choices were snowballing into a disaster I couldn't reverse. One night, after the kids had gone to sleep, Jake looked at me with so much pain in his eyes. Not just physical pain, but the kind of weariness that seeps into your bones. "Kristen," he whispered, "we're going to lose everything if you don't start taking this seriously." My face burned with shame and anger. Wasn't I trying? Didn't he see how hard I was fighting just to keep us together? But deep down, I knew he was right. I was way out of my depth. For so long, I felt like I deserved a certain life just for being there, for holding everything together at home. But I never realized how much was truly on Jake's shoulders, how easy it was for me to ignore the tough stuff because he always carried the burden for us. Things changed between us. At first, it was just little things. Jake snapping over the price of groceries, getting frustrated when I forgot a bill. But soon, the air in our house was heavy with blame. Every word, every silence felt like a judgment, a reminder of how far we'd fallen. Then one day he said it, "I can't keep dragging you down, Kristen." The words cut me. I didn't understand that. Wasn't he the one who was hurt? But as he spoke, I realized that somewhere along the way he started blaming me for the pressure, for the failures, for everything falling apart. I wasn't ready for that. I never wanted to admit my part in all of this. I just wanted to survive each day. But the way he looked at me, like I was a stranger who'd let him down, made me question everything. I kept telling myself we'd get through it, that things would go back to normal, that Jake would heal and our marriage would bounce back. But some wounds don't heal, and some scars keep growing until you can't remember what life was like before them. Now Jake talks about divorce, and the word sits between us like a loaded gun. Sometimes I think he's just lashing out, overwhelmed by pain and fear. But then I wonder, what if he's right? What if I really can't do this? What if I'm not cut out to pick up the pieces? I try to hold on for the kids if nothing else. Ethan and Maddie. They're the only reason Jake and I still sit at the same table some nights, still pretend for a little while longer. They don't understand, not really, but I see the questions in their eyes. I feel like I'm failing them too. Jake pulls away bit by bit, and I slip further into doubt and regret. Sometimes I'm so angry at him. Angry for getting hurt, angry for handing me all this responsibility, angry for making me feel like the villain in my own story. But most of all, I'm terrified. I'm terrified of being left alone with nothing but my mistakes for company. It got so bad, I started avoiding him altogether, hiding behind chores and errands, pretending I could still keep our world spinning. But the truth is, I was exhausted. I wanted to fix things, but I had no idea where to begin. Then came the night I'll never forget. A Thursday. Jake was sitting in the living room, the TV flickering on his face. He looked so empty, like all the fight had drained out of him. He didn't yell, didn't accuse. He just said, quietly, "I'm done, Kristen. I can't do this anymore. He stopped fighting for us, and I can't keep carrying us on my own." I felt like I'd been dropped in ice water. All my words dried up. I wanted to beg, to scream, to promise him I'd do better. But I just stared at him, silent. Jake stood up. Slowly, painfully, every movement a reminder of what we'd lost. And said the words that split my heart in two: "I won the divorce, Kristen. The rest is a blur." He moved out 2 days later, taking only what he needed, leaving behind the ruins of our marriage. I watched him go from the doorway, numb and empty. The divorce papers came months after that, sealing the end of everything we'd promised each other. Now every day feels like I'm picking through the rubble, searching for a piece of the life I used to have. I never thought it would hurt this much. I never thought I'd feel so hollow, so lost. I see now, Jake was right. I didn't fight for him, not really. I took him for granted until there was nothing left to fight for. I don't know where to go from here. I don't know if I'll ever stop blaming myself. But one thing is certain, I will never forget the moment the man I loved walked out and I was left standing in the ashes of my own regrets.